Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last episode. If you're one of those people, I hope you enjoyed it and thanks so much for coming back. But for those of us out there who are new to the show, those of you who are new to the show, welcome. And I fucked that whole thing up. I really don't care. But regardless, for those of you that are coming back, feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer and soda and coffee in the fridge. Cheers, Justin. I'm not too sure if you have anything to drink over there, but
Salud.
What you got in that glass?
It's a Bloody Mary.
Fuck yeah. So, for everyone out there that is not familiar with my guest, I am sitting here today with my friend remotely somewhere else in the world besides where I'm at. Justin Gizzi, make some noise for the internet. We've been trying to set up a podcast together, me and Justin, for probably about a year or so, if not longer. Just trying to get the timing right, do it around one of his 25 bands releasing something. But a whole lot of nothing's happening now. So I hit up Justin and I said, hey, why don't we just do this now? We could always do a more official one later, but let's chat. How you holding up?
I'm quite well, thank you. How are you doing there?
I'm good. I'm keeping pretty busy and staying as optimistic as possible.
Good.
I feel
anything.
I was gonna.
Is there anything going on at the record store?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, still shipping some mail order out, but that's not what makes the company money by any means.
Sure.
So everything right now is just kind of staying afloat. Luckily, I spent the past year or so of my adult life trying to be an adult and doing that whole, well, we should save money in case something happens sort of thing.
Nicely done.
I picked a good year to do that.
Good.
So right now, it's not great. I would much rather be working and obviously playing shows and being out and about, but at least I've got myself in sort of a comfortable position that I can do this and try to make the most of it. What have you been up to?
I've been self-isolating here. The bands haven't been, victims of contagion. The guys have gotten together at least 2, maybe 3 times. They've been working up some new songs. Molasses Barge, we haven't been getting together. Our drummer's, not on death's door or anything, but he's got some health issues that would make him more at risk for this virus. So we're laying low, and Earns hasn't been rehearsing, but we do have a new recording in the can. It's about maybe 90% of the way with the mixing and everything. Just needs a little bit of fine tuning, and that'll be done. But they haven't been getting together either. So I visited my folks a few times, cut the grass, been to the grocery store a few times. Other than that, I've been hanging in for the most part.
Yeah. Catching up on any stuff around the house? You change any light bulbs? Clean any floors?
I have accumulated a lot of stuff over the years. I haven't thrown a lot of things away. I'm not a hoarder, but I have probably 6 or 7 storage bins, and they're all full of the same things. It's mostly media, CDs, cassettes, vinyl, DVDs, VHS, magazines, things like this. But there's a little bit of everything in every single one of them. So what I've been doing is just putting all of the CDs in one, all the VHS in another, and so on and so forth. I've taken my sweet old time with it, but getting everything organized and condensed a little bit around here. So,
you find any gems?
As a matter of fact, here, you'll get a kick out of this.
Let's see it. Let's see the gems.
Mint condition.
You know what's so funny is that sticker's actually from before I was in the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I would have
When did you
never
join?
in my goddamn life let them put those words on a sticker.
Oh, golly.
Yeah, it's so abrasive. It's so abrasive. And yeah, that's just not my style. Never was. But yeah,
When did you join?
I'm sorry?
When did you join Ascend the Fallen?
Man, I guess that would have been probably around 2008 or 2009. I don't think that they could have been playing more than a year or so before me joining the band. But yeah, I was the second vocalist in the band. Shout outs to Jake. He's probably not watching, but Jake's a good friend of ours. He still comes out to a lot of the Grey Walker shows and stuff, but he was the original vocalist. Jake Samery.
Did he play guitar too?
Same
guy?
No, I know Jake does play guitar. I don't know if he played guitar in Ascend the Fallen then. I saw them play one show before I was in the band, and he was just doing vocals. He wasn't...
Was there another Jake in the band that played guitar?
No, Colt, who plays bass in Grey Walker, actually played guitar, and then our other buddy, Dex, was lead guitar.
I'm wondering if it's the same Jake that I knew is from like North Huntingdon. He lived.
Yeah, I think he's from out that way.
Okay, I didn't realize he did vocals.
I mean, it could be a different Jake. Jake's a fairly common name.
No, it must be the same. No, it must be the same guy, because when I was in Scorched, we played a show with Ascend the Fallen. It was at some little storefront over in Glassport.
Okay.
And he was there, and I hadn't seen him in 5 or 6 years. He was a neighbor of a friend of mine, and that was how I'd gotten to know him. And I actually didn't even recognize him, but he came up, and I thought he played guitar that day, but maybe he did the vocals.
Dude,
he just came to see the show. I don't remember.
He very well may have. Because I didn't play any shows, and I remember that venue in Glassport. I didn't play there with Ascend the Fallen.
Oh.
In the time frame that venue existed, I definitely wasn't in the band yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, talking about bands, you got your hands full these days. We mentioned Victims of Contagion, who recently released a new song online with a very colorful album artwork.
It certainly was.
It's good. It sounds great.
It is nice. It was very pinkish. I thought it was for Breast Cancer Awareness Month or something. It was very neon pink and green. I mean, it does look really nice. It's very, the artwork's standing.
The track sounds really, really funny. Not funny, but good. I was listening to it and I thought it was really funny because I just kept on yelling like, nobody cares that you could play guitar, Chuck. Just stop. just get on with the song. There's like that, there's like that bridge part. Yeah, there's like that, Metallica-esque bridge where it cuts to like the kind of clean, and then there's some noodly guitar shit. I'm just like, shut up, Chuck. But no, it sounded good.
Yeah. It's maddening. Chuck's your neighbor. Don't you live?
Yeah. Chuck? Yeah, he lives about 5 minutes away from us up the hill. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, I thought you were in the same vicinity over there.
I mean, yeah, super, super close. He's in what was that? That's a Mount Troy, and we're in Troy Hill.
Troy Hill.
Yeah.
Oh, he's Mount Troy.
Mount Troy. I guess that's what that is up there. It's like another hill up. It's funny because like if you're on 28, you take Rialto up to Troy Hill, and then there's another hill to get up to his place.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I've gone that way to his place. I think I went through Millvale or something because the traffic was so bad in the afternoon, so I came around the other way.
So, Victims of Contagion, which technical death metal, we'll call it.
Yeah,
playing
certainly
Molasses Barge, which is a little bit more mature.
Yeah. We actually, I just canceled our CD release show. It was supposed to be on May 2nd.
It's heartbreaking.
And there hadn't been any official word from the state if they were extending the stay-at-home, order. But I had a feeling it was coming. I know that it seems like the new cases of the virus are coming down, or at least the volume isn't as high, but there's still new cases every day. So I figured it was a safe bet, and we haven't rehearsed anyways. So today they announced that they were extending it till the 8th. So it would have, we would have had to have canceled it anyways. The venue wouldn't have been open. So yeah, the album came out last week and a half ago, and yeah, not the most ideal time right now. So, but it is what it is. We're happy it's out, and it's out there for people to download or stream or whatever they want to do with it. So
I will say this though, it's probably an optimal time for a band full of members that may not be particularly fluent in the art of social media promotion, because you're all older guys. You're not young kids on the TikToks and the Snapchats. So
right, I didn't even know it. Actually, I'm still not quite sure what TikTok is. I've been seeing it though. Yeah, I know it exists.
I feel like there's a really cool opportunity for you guys now to maybe really step up that social media game, since you got nothing else to do, and help get the word out about the album.
It could be. I've actually been. I mean, there's no good time for something like this to happen, really. But I was really getting towards the end of last year, getting really burned out, like in need of a break. But had to prep for the Ernst recording. We recorded at the end of January, and I was kind of looking towards. We had some shows booked. Victims had a few shows booked, and they all got canceled. But I was looking forward for those to kind of get me, back in the swing again. But now that everything got canceled, I'm enjoying the break. To be honest with you, I needed a bit of a reset. I was just getting really burned out. Had a lot going on, personal stuff I don't really want to get into, but just some very draining, taxing stuff the last couple of years. So, and it's just been a good. I'm taking advantage of the break right now.
I agree with you 100%. I've been telling people that, I mean, aside from it being a good time to get your social media up on a more personal, serious level, it's actually a great time to reevaluate your priorities and figure out what you really, what's really important. That whole, you don't know what you got till it's gone sort of thing. Now that we've all been stuck in the house for about a month, and it's going to probably be closer to 2 or 3, who knows, fucking really start to figure out, like, oh fuck, I can't wait to do that again. And then stuff like, wow, I haven't done that in a while, and I could not care less that I haven't.
I'm definitely missing people for sure. I've always been fairly reserved. I'm not the most outgoing person, but I've always had jobs where I've been working with the public and bartending, waiting tables, working in clubs, and some retail. For the past 5.5 years, I've been a ride sharing driver. So between that and rehearsals, I'm interacting with people all week long. So anytime I could get like just a day or two to like not have to talk to anybody and just like have time to myself, like, is great. But this is definitely overkill at this point. But from what I saw today, they're extending the stay at home thing until May 8th. And, hopefully we're getting closer to being in the clear here. So
yeah.
I'm staying optimistic.
This will probably be going up sometime around then. So we'll, who knows what has happened since we've recorded this. Everything is so wild. Normally I record episodes and they don't go up for like a month or so, but I'm being better about that now. This is probably going to be try to do a quicker turnaround, because obviously it's almost impossible to not talk about current things with just how insanely, invasive it is to everybody's life right now. But I was thinking about something kind of funny. You were talking about you're not, the most air quote outgoing person, but you're around and you're in the world, you're in the mix of things. Not a super loud forefront person, but undoubtedly an important part to the mix of life. It's like you're almost a bass player even when you're not playing bass.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. Sure.
So the only thing that we haven't touched on also is Urns, which is the third band that you play in. And I've had a couple of your homeboys on the show already. So people that watch the show should be familiar with Urns. And the chances are, if you're watching the two of us chop it up right now, you probably already know me or Justin or them anyways. You're part of this whole Pittsburgh music scene thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Urns. We recorded a full length at the end of January. 7 songs. We may throw on a cover song that we recorded the last time we did our last album. But yeah, it's very close to being done. I'm very happy with it. The guys, Mitch and Mike, worked up some really cool songs, and it's about, I think, probably like 90% done. Just a few notes on each song, and maybe some vocal touch ups on my end, and then they'll be off to get mastered. And we had a show we were supposed to play March 27th, I think it was. It was a Black Seed show. It was one of Shy's shows. It was actually related to the Descendants of Crom Fest. It was sort of a pre-fest type thing. She hates when I say fest. I don't know. You can edit that out later.
I'm not going to.
Yeah.
She's going to have to deal with it.
But I'll just hear it later. But yeah, I was looking forward to that because we were going to play all these new songs. Most of them we hadn't played live, or maybe a couple of them we had, but we were probably going to play mostly all new stuff. So I was really looking forward to it. So that was right when this pretty much hit, and all the venues had to close down.
Yeah.
So, but hopefully we'll be able to pick things up soon enough and things get relatively back to normal. How about Grey Walker with what's going on with y'all?
Fuck, man. Like, we're supposed to go into the studio with Shane at Cerebral Audio to record in June. And I'm stoked on that because that dude is a psychopath and he records really good heavy music. That new Post-Mortal stuff sounds bonkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds...
Shane's really good. He's great to work with. He's got the right temperament for an engineer.
So we're looking forward to it, but I have no idea what's going to happen because we haven't been rehearsing. So the whole thing, like this time period that we're in right now, pre-lockdown, we had planned to record pre-production for the entire record and like really like lock everything in so we could go to Shane, like knowing like this is what it's going to be. These are our tempo changes. This is the order of everything. This really organized, but we can't do that right now. And I don't want to go into the studio with stuff that's under rehearsed and unprepared. So it's looking pretty likely, unless things really, really turn around quick and we all, have this still, because like even once we are able to get back to some sort of normalcy, there's going to be a ton of scrambling and catching up and things that people need to do. So even once we can be in the same room with each other, it's probably going to be a while before we can get back to practicing regularly or even playing shows. Like, who the fuck's going to be comfortable going to a venue even when they can go outside? So I'm really concerned about it. I feel like, the music industry was one of the first things to go when this all happened, and it's going to be one of the last things to return. Yeah,
that seems likely too. Certainly, especially the larger scale venues, and I saw that there was some talk of the NFL season maybe not happening next year. And I mean, that's tens of thousands of people every week that go to those games. So it's understandable. I just, I don't know. I felt right away that, I mean, it's pretty obvious it was going to get worse before it got better. It's tough tell right now exactly where things are going to end up. It's kind of unprecedented for our lifetime, at least.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just rolling with it. I got enough to keep me busy, and I mean, we with Sykes and a New Violence, we're still recording. We've
Hmm.
been doing like one-on-one sessions here. So it's like, one day Evan will come over, one day Justin comes over, one day Mandy comes over. We haven't like actually rehearsed in the same room together, but we're getting through this record. We're going to be putting out a new song next week. By the time this goes up, the new song will be out. So that's fun. I've actually spent
Hmm.
a chunk of my morning looking up, the proper ways to like suggested ways to release alternative hip hop song in 2020, and like who you should send stuff to and different influencers and things. Not that I give that much of a shit. It's just like, well, if I have the
Hmm.
extra time to research this, why not? So I'm gonna
Uh,
spend a couple extra days, try to send some stuff. Maybe it'll get on a playlist. I don't know. And then people will like us on the internet. That'd be cool. Give it a whirl.
yeah, definitely.
It's always
Definitely.
it's fun to expand that your knowledge and your reach, because especially with something having a project that has the potential to maybe be a little bit more commercially marketable than Greywalker is, just because it's not fucking yelling the whole time.
Right. No, I feel you. Yeah.
With everything that you've done over the course of your life, you've been in
Hmm.
a lot of bands, you've consistently active, always in multiple projects, it seems.
Hmm.
I have one question.
Sure.
Why?
Well, I have a problem. I think it's just for as long as I can remember, um, I don't know if there's ever been like a good song I heard or a good band I saw play where like I didn't want to be in the band or or playing that song or whatever it was. It's like to this day, like your band, whatever the next band I go see, like I'll be like, well, I'd like to play along with them, I don't know. I just so there was also, I mean, that's how I've been like the past 15 years or so, but there was periods like in my 20s where I was only, I was in a band for a short period of time here and a short period of time there, and I was working more towards career type stuff and not particularly happy doing it. So when I was about 30, from from 25 to 30, I lived in South Carolina for a few years, and then I um, just went down subsequent summers to work. So I was kind of living there part time, and so I wasn't really playing much at all during that period. Then when I was about 30, and it was kind of planting my feet back here again. Excuse me, that was whenever I don't know, maybe I was trying to catch up or something. I don't know, but I just and I there was a period there too where I didn't I was less willing to sort of branch out. I was more focused on just trying to play with guys I already knew and people I'd already been in bands with before. And I remember a friend of mine who actually played in Molasses Barge for a while, but we'd been in some bands when we were a little younger. And he was telling me, he's like, if you keep waiting for these like perfect scenarios to materialize, like it's what you're looking for it's not going to happen. And another friend would always say, we would get together and like play acoustic stuff and get, bombed and just, kind of have fun with it. And he would say, you got to put yourself out there more. And I'd be like, yeah. I tell them both. But then eventually, once I finally, I don't know, kind of just let go of whatever that was and was more willing to just kind of play with anyone who would let me, then this whole other world kind of opened up for me. And then, and like you said, yeah, multiple bands. And I think that's another thing of why I was just kind of getting a little burned out. I can only think of, off the top of my head, I can only think of maybe like a combined 6 months where I was only in one band. So, and even though it's like I'm not a touring musician, don't spend time on the road or anything like that, it's still a lot of work to put into and to each band. And I think what makes it the easiest is that I don't have to write for all of them. And they're not in times when maybe I was in like more than 3 bands at a time. They weren't all going full bore at the same time. One might be down a member, or maybe one's just writing. Another one is gigging out pretty steadily and doing everything. So it was always manageable.
It's cool because over the years that I've gotten to know you and see you around, it's easy to tell that you're somebody that really gives a shit and you have a passion for this. I don't think that you would continue to do it if you didn't, because as you said, it's a lot of work dragging gear around the city to play to like 30 people if you're lucky on a Tuesday. And the other thing too is I feel like I've probably seen you at more shows that you weren't playing than shows that where one of your bands was playing. Like you're just around.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy taking in other bands, and it's a reciprocity thing. You know, there are people who come and see my bands play. You know, I go to see them, and it seems like the musicians tend to keep each other going here. You know, with it being such a sports dominated town. There are music fans who come out and go to the shows and all that, of course. But, you know, a lot of the shows that I go to, I mean, when I look around, I know it's a lot of people who are also in bands that are there. And I think that there's, I guess there's always bands within each genre here in Pittsburgh that you kind of need to have. I don't think beacon's the right word, but like, you know, bands that other people can look to and kind of support and help give a little bit of a push to, that are bands that can actually go out and do this a little more full time, get on bigger festivals out of town and do some touring and things like that. Whether it's a Lady Beast would probably be a good example, or a Carousel, I think, who aren't around anymore, but at that time we're one of those bands. And I think it helps to have like somebody that you can kind of push out to the front and say, you know, like this is someone that we're all behind, and it's somebody that you all want to see, you know, do well, and because I think it reflects on the rest of the city.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
So, did you grow up in Pittsburgh?
I grew up in North Huntington, where Jake was from.
Gotcha.
So just half hour east of the city. Lived in and around the city for a good while. I've lived in Forest Hills for about the past 5 years here now, but was in Lawrenceville before that. Lived up in Arlington for a long while. Lived in Penn Hills for a little bit. Lived in Carrick. So been around a bit.
Yeah, I like Forest Hills.
Yeah, it's convenient. My folks still live in North Huntington, so it's just they're 15, 20 minutes up the road, and I'm right by the Parkway ramp, so I get downtown in 10, 12 minutes when there isn't much traffic.
When you
get to the rehearsal space.
When you originally moved to Pittsburgh, was it for music? Were you like playing in bands and stuff, or were you just trying to find something cool?
That was part of it. I think Carrick was the first place I lived in the city. I was working at Heinz Field as well at the time, so wanted to be a little closer to work. So it was an easier commute as well, but was also rehearsing with a band at ABC up above the south side there in Allentown. So it was right up the road from there as well.
Is it safe to say that that's probably the place you've lived the longest out of anywhere? ABC.
I think since 2005, I've had a room or rehearsed in a room there, other than maybe for a year or two somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I still have a room there. I kind of sublet it to some guys that I was in a band with before that have something else now, and I've just held on to it in case I need a smaller room someday. I have Burns, Molasses Barge, and Victims of Contagion all rehearse in the same room. It's over in McKees Rocks at that ABC. The fella who owns it sold the one up in Allentown and put money into the second floor of the McKees Rocks one and built all new rooms there.
Oh, wow.
So I have a big 22 by 20 foot room. We're the first people in it. It's new. It's clean. It's air conditioning and
No shit.
heating. Yeah. So after all those years of being in the trenches at the other ABC, it's nice to be at this place. There's no steps. It is convenient. It's an easy drive for me. I hop right on the Parkway,
Yeah.
and no stopping until you get to the McKees Rocks Bridge. So it's nice.
Hell yeah. Now, in terms of playing in bands, have you always played in like rock, metal? Was that always your thing?
For the most part, I played in a couple indie rock things as well. Yeah, for the most part, primarily metal. I started off playing punk. But yeah, for the most part, it has been mostly metal. Yeah, mostly metal stuff. But I like everything. I mean, I'm really like Victims of Contagion. I really struggle with that band because I can play technical stuff, but I'm not technically sound at all.
Well,
I'm much more of a feel player, especially on bass. So like R&B is much more a natural thing to me. So
I think the other thing too is with something like Victims of Contagion, if you're not the songwriter, not only do you have to learn what somebody else is playing, you have to like understand you have to learn the nuance. And sometimes learning the nuance is so much harder than just learning the part. It'd be the equivalent of me just saying like, hey, memorize this thing. Doobity bow, boo, ba doo, boo, bow. And you're like, repeat that. And you'd be like, it might be off. And I'm like, a doobity bow, but bow. And like, you're like, you can't get it in your head. Like, it's okay for me because I came up with it. So it's already implanted. But now I'm trying to get you to learn this weird rhythm part thing. And like, I don't know. It happens with me even with like really, really simple things sometimes when I'm working on stuff. Like even with like Sykes and the New Violence stuff, it can be a more simple rhythm. And I'm like, this is what I'm hearing in my head. Somebody else doesn't quite hear it, but it's just because I came up with it. So I get it.
Sure. Yeah, no, I feel you. There were some bands I fall really short of the mark. Like I can't read music. I don't have a trained ear. I can't listen to something and then just learn it like that. But if you play something in front of me, I can generally pick it up and play it back if I watch you play it once or twice. So that's kind of been what's saved me basically. And even like Scorched was like that. Liquefied Guts was maybe probably a little more intense to learn. But the Victim stuff, I actually have Tony Zello, our guitar player. He'll record a video of himself and upload it to YouTube, and I'll watch it at half speed. That's how I learned the Victims of Contagion songs.
Hell yeah,
yeah, because I can't process it. It's just so nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah,
utilize that technology. I love it.
I do. Yeah.
That rules.
It works.
With all of the stuff that's going on now, are you taking any time to maybe practice? You playing by yourself? You rehearsing? Getting your chops up?
No, I actually have. I told the Victims guys this a couple weeks ago, or just very recently, because they were talking about getting together. Mike was really going stir crazy. I said, I'm really enjoying the break, and I'm not quite reset yet. Like I'll pick up my guitar or my bass, but I don't play for very long.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, I'm okay with having the break
Taking a
right
break.
now.
I
Mhm.
like it. I was kind of, I feel a bit hypocritical saying this because I've definitely taken my free time to do pretty consistent keeping up with podcasts and other little videos and recording and stuff like that. But I also feel that there was a lot of people that have just been doing, live streams for the sake of doing it and all of these things. It just feels like way too much. Like it's okay to do nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, like I feel like
Yeah.
if
Early.
I was gonna say,
Go
I feel
ahead.
like
I'm
if you're
sorry.
gonna like put something together that's cool and put it out there, but also I don't know, like who the fuck am I to tell people how to spend their free time? I'm just gonna shut up.
You know what? Earns had talked. We were going to, whenever that show got canceled, we were gonna have the other bands come to our practice space and just do a stream like that. Rick, our drummer, knows somebody who's pretty handy with audio and video recording, so we were gonna do that. But the other bands weren't too into it, and then when I thought about it, I was like, maybe we shouldn't, because the other guys were still interacting with a lot of other people. And my main concern with this virus wasn't even with myself. It was more like getting it, not knowing I have it, giving it to my parents or something like that, who are in good health, but they're older, and I just
Sure.
wouldn't want to take chances like that. So I was in the kitchen in here, and I like to cook. I always cook for myself, and I usually have R&B playing. I usually play like the Motown station on Pandora
Okay.
or
All
something
right.
like
All right.
that.
I take
And
everything. I take everything back that I said a couple minutes ago. I want the Justin Gizzi cooking live stream with the R&B
I
playing.
was going to
I think everybody wants it.
no, I don't think they do.
I'd
The
watch.
Spinners came on the song called Games People Play, and I love singing it because there's at least three different voices. They're multi-vocalist band,
Yeah.
and I can kind of hit all three of them, even the woman's. There's like a real deep voice, and the guy that sings the lead, and there's like a woman's voice that comes in for a line. I was like, I should stream this and upload it just so people can, laugh at me or whatever. And then I realized, well, people are probably sick of this by now,
Yeah.
because
It's
when I scroll through my feed, and I watch them all and I get a kick out of them, but I was like, I don't want to make people are going to unfollow me when they see this or something.
yeah.
So I haven't bothered.
Yeah. It could be hard. Too much content can be difficult, but it's also like, well, people do want to see you having fun. People do want to connect with everybody. And I just think
Mhm.
that I'm a little bit too behind the curtain sometimes. And my brain operates maybe not the way that a normal person would. Like somebody might see, like, oh, Jeff's doing a live stream of him just fucking with guitar pedals. This is cool. I see it and I'm just like, you're wasting everybody's time. Nobody cares. But I'm just being an asshole. So I need to, chickadee check myself. I'm out here
Yeah,
like posting
live and
videos
let
about
live.
potato chips as if I'm some fucking bastion of high art when it comes to fucking social media, like
Mm,
it's important to be self-aware, I guess.
yes, it is.
So
Live and let.
aside from that Ascend the Fallen sticker, did you come across anything else funny in your hunt?
Um, Nothing too off the wall, but it was like I could tell, like, within the bins there were some old shoe boxes that had other stuff, little handbills and little CDRs that bands gave me of, not their
Yeah.
official recording yet or whatever, but like whatever it was, and I could kind of tell, by the things that were in there, like what year it was. It was like, okay, like there's I was in this band at this time and was going to this venue a lot, or whatever. And I'm fairly sentimental and nostalgic. I enjoy, going through the back pages like that once in a while. It's kind of neat to see what you were doing and what was going on at that time. So
Yeah.
nothing too nothing that really jumps out, but just a lot of cool, memories were, coming back.
I have storage bins in my basement, probably not too dissimilar from yours, but it's mostly just band shirts. And like a lot of them are local band shirts from probably the past 15 years. And there's so many sick shirts, but none of them fit me. It's like, when the
Oh
fuck was
no.
I a medium? How? It's like, I can't even believe it. It's so weird because I can look at pictures of me from back then and my head doesn't look, and I don't look any different, but somehow I have just like, everything is evenly expanded somehow. It's like my scale has just increased somehow. I don't fucking know. I don't understand biology enough to understand how it works. I mean,
I
obviously IPAs happened and that probably helped, but aside from that,
That seems like it. I um I actually didn't realize that you were in Ascend the Fallen. I I don't know when it was. It might have been back around the New Year, Christmas or something. I had some downtime or just bored or whatever, and I was looking through my MySpace page, and I came across the Ascend the Fallen MySpace, and I was like, oh, Ascend the Fallen. I remember those guys, and I clicked on the profile, and I was like, is that Brian?
yeah.
Because you weren't shaving your head at the time, so
Uh-huh.
it was
Yeah,
like,
no, I still had
what?
hair back then.
Yeah, I was like, well, that is Brian. Like, I didn't realize it, and then as luck would have it, I found that sticker. I'm pretty sure I have an Ascend the Fallen T-shirt too. I've got 100
Hell yeah.
band T-shirts. I only wear 5 or 6 of them, but yeah, I definitely have one in there.
Ascend the Fallen was like the first I guess actual metal band I was in that played shows. I had a band in high school we tried to do that was like very like, our main influence was probably like Pig Destroyer. It was real sick. It was really, really
Nice.
cool. But we never played any shows. It was just like a garage thing, and it just never, we didn't fucking know anybody.
Hmm.
Tell me this, did you have a similar situation as I did? Because I'm a little bit younger than you, but I'm in my mid 30s. And at the time in high school, there was like one band, and they weren't, there was one pop punk band in my high school. That was it. There was like no metal bands or anything. And like, I didn't really know, the local music scene existed, but I was just disconnected from it. I went to high school at Woodland Hills, and there just wasn't a local. It was
Oh, okay.
funny. It seemed like there was more local bands when I was like younger, because there was like the Swissville Fire Hall and stuff when I was like in middle school. But then when I was in high
Okay.
school, there was like no local scene except for my one friends that had a pop punk band. Was there a lot of bands when you were in high
It
school?
Yes, there actually was. I grew up in North Huntingdon. Huntingdon. I went to Norwin, and I grew up down the street from a guy named Bill Turney, who was a wild man, and he was in Eviction. Their name's been
Nice.
around a lot lately
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
were going to do a reunion show, and they've had some of their old albums reissued. And then he was in another band called Travesty, who I actually ended up playing with some years later. They were very active. Bill was the only one from the area, but they were somewhat known in that area. There was also a band called Sinister, who were around late '80s through the early '90s, and um, there what else was around back then. There were quite a few bands. There was some of the guys who were in Osrotten. They had a band before that. Those guys were from the Irwin,
Huh.
North Huntingdon area as well. Um, and all those bands, for the most part, played in the city as well. And that was the days of the Doom Watch and Half Life and Travesty. There was a pretty rich punk and metal scene,
Yeah.
seemingly at that time. Now, I was like 13 when I was coming into all of that, so I didn't really get to a lot of shows in the city myself until later. But did, get to go to places like the Banana, played a show at the Electric Bananas. But at my high school in particular, um, for my grade, there were like probably a dozen and a half guys that played guitar, two bass players, and like two drummers in
Yeah.
the like, in the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
there
as
were
far as bands, there weren't a ton of bands, but there
okay.
were a handful, and they were
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, I knew kids that played, but there was only one band that actually played shows that
Mhm.
I was in high school with, but I had my little thing that I was trying to do, and some other people that I knew were trying to do stuff, and nobody just ever played shows. I guess it was just a school thing because, I mean, less than 10 years after I graduated, there was a ton of kids that I knew that were coming from that area, the like, Forest Hills,
Uh,
Churchill,
mhm.
Edgewood, all that. Because I still
Where did you grow up at?
I grew up so I grew up in Wilkinsburg, ended up moving to Regent Square, then eventually lived in Swissvale. So just kind of like moved up South Braddock Avenue, basically.
Right, right.
Yeah. So primarily Swissvale, Wilkinsburg were like the two, because my parents were split. It's funny, like my parents had me when they were super super young. Like my mom was like
Mhm.
17, my dad was maybe like 18. My dad was actually an Eviction fan, which was so like
Oh, wow.
I grew up like my dad's a huge metalhead, so I grew up like going to Ides and like knowing who the Eviction guys were and stuff. I just had Todd Porter on the podcast recently, and
I saw that.
and
Yeah, I
it's
didn't
so
watch that one yet, but I saw that he was on.
it's really funny
It,
because his son Derek, when I lived in Forest Hills, I lived down
mhm.
the street from his son Derek, who had like a fucking post-hardcore band about a decade ago called Macian. And he was the singer in that
Okay.
band. And it was so funny because I never knew that his dad was Todd from Eviction. And then whenever those dots finally connected, my brain was like, what the fuck? Like just like super small world. It was really, really silly.
The very first show I ever went to, when I was 13, it was Eviction was playing. Yeah, it was at the Eden Park roller rink in McKeesport. It was like the fall of 1987.
Yeah.
It was a really good, to my ears, they were a really good punk band. If I went back and listened now, I don't know. I think I still have their demo, actually. They were called Conniption. They had some heavy, catchy numbers, and Eviction played. And I swear, I looked through the whole. Necropolis has a website now, and they had their entire show listing. And I swear they played this show, but they didn't have it listed on there. And I talked to their singer online a little bit about it, and he didn't remember. But maybe it could have been something where they got added at the last minute. Somebody dropped off, they hopped on, and just 30 odd years ago, it's a blur, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
and a band called Speedkill played, who were really good, and I actually still listen. I have it on my MP3 player. I still listen to that demo once in a while. They were very um, kind of a cross between like Merciful Fate and like Grim Reaper, like that that kind of sound.
Did they have
Way,
did they have as a bold vocalist, we'll say?
yes, yeah, he had a pretty strong falsetto, and
Hell yeah.
he pretty good singing voice, good twin guitars, shredding solos. But the drummer and bass player tore it up as well. They were really good. But I don't think, from what I recall, and I'm still in contact with the one guitar player. I don't think they played the city a whole lot, so they weren't like scene darlings like some of the
Sure.
some of the other bands that are remembered with a bit more reverence. But they were really good, really good
That's
band.
that's
But
something
yeah, Fiction, that was the first show I went to.
that's something that I'm always really fascinated to learn about in terms of just the history of the Pittsburgh metal scene, because you hear
Mhm.
a lot about punk and hardcore and sometimes the metal gets sprinkled in, but I feel like a lot of it gets overshadowed.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
it's
the punk
how I was say it's just cool to be able to talk to people that were around in some capacity in like the earlier days and remember bands like a Speed Kill, because I've never fucking heard of Speed Kill, but I want to hear them. You got to send me those
Yeah,
MP3s.
yeah, I'll turn you on to it for sure. Geez, what was I gonna say? It's not important. It'll come back to me.
We were just talking about how like punk and hardcore really overshadowed
Oh,
the local
yeah,
metal
I
scene.
was gonna say that the punk scene was always seemingly a constant here. There was always certain bands that were sort of carrying the torch, and that scene has just seemingly always been the strongest here. Even, I mean, there were definitely years where I wasn't really paying as much attention or going out to as many shows, but it seems like the punk has always been there. It always will be there, kind of thing. I remember whenever there was a handful of years ago, some people started boycotting the 31st Street pub, and we Molasses Barge kind of got caught in the middle of that a little bit because one of our members was also more on the crust punk side, and some of his people, they weren't down with playing there anymore, so he was with more with that. But especially at that particular time, there weren't a ton of, and there still aren't a lot of doom metal and stoner rock shows coming through. So it was, we didn't really have the luxury of passing on shows like that. Like there weren't many other bands to even. It was just kind of us and this another band called Vulture who would play those shows. And I remember, we were going back and forth about it, and I was like, there's 500 punk shows here a year, like, you skip one, you'll get to play the next one. Like, we didn't really have that luxury. So we actually didn't play there that times after that whole thing started. But yeah, it just seems like we'll run out of punk shows here, or punk venues. A place gets closed down, they spring up another DIY place that nobody knows about, and you got to email them, call somebody to find out where it is. Mm-hmm. Like the punk scene's always been seemingly a constant here, for sure.
I think it's a lot easier sometimes for the punk to survive because it doesn't need as much. It's not as needy. You don't need a whole lot. You just need a room that you can fit 30 people in and a speaker, and you're good. You can have a punk show.
Yeah, totally. Your audio's getting broken up a little bit on me now.
Sorry about that. How are we doing now? We okay?
Seemingly okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You crackled a couple of times throughout the course of the conversation. I have a feeling it's just inevitable.
Okay.
It's all good.
Problem.
But
okay.
I think that it is.
If you see me going like this, that's whenever it's happening.
Okay.
Like, trying to really concentrate to pick out what you're saying.
Noted. I think it's really interesting to hear stories like what you're talking about and realize how much things just haven't changed. We can talk about bands that were really good that just didn't play out a whole lot and they get forgotten about. That still happens today. Venues that some drama happens and all of a sudden nobody wants to go there. That still happens today, from your 31st Street pub to a Gooski's to a Howlers or whatever. Like it's so interesting that it just feels like the structures of a underground music scene, regardless of how evolved everything else has become and the social media and new venues popping up and new bands, it's still the same shit. Does it feel the same? Like, does it feel like it's really changed? A lot of people like to say things were different back in the day. Does it feel different to you as somebody that lived through it?
Not particularly, but I wasn't as integrated in that scene. So as they say on the event pages for the secret shows, ask a punk. So I'll defer on that one.
So, as we wrap up our hour here, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I would have liked to have done this in person. I would have liked to have had a conversation that wasn't so apocalyptic feeling in some ways. But we're able to make it happen. That's one thing that's really cool. That's one thing that has certainly changed. If this was happening in 1989, we certainly couldn't have been doing this right now.
Yeah, we could just do it over the phone and somehow record it. I'm sure there was a way. However they did that.
I mean, they did. Wasn't that how Watergate happened? Wasn't it just a bunch of recorded phone calls? Well, that's the first thing I think of when it comes to recorded phone calls. But anyways, yeah. So don't know.
It was good to see you.
It was great to see you. Great to chat with you. I don't know when we're going to get to see each other in person. I don't know when things are going to be available to do in the real world. But one thing that people can do right now that they're on their internet device is they could check out the new Victims of Contagion song. That's over on the Victims of Contagion Bandcamp page. I don't know if you have it anywhere else. It's definitely on the Bandcamp page. Is it on the Spotify's and everything?
It's on Spotify, I'm fairly certain, yeah. The Molasses Barge album is on Spotify and probably all the streaming services, and it's on Bandcamp. Pre-order for the physical copies. There are labels in Italy, so
okay.
It's the epicenter there. So when they get here, they get here.
The audio just cut out as you were giving your Molasses Barge plug, which is perfect. But I think that I made out that you have the new album that's coming out, and physical copies are going to be coming, but they are delayed because of our situation. Was that basically what you said?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct, sir. Yes.
Cool. Well, aside from that, I think I'm just going to do my outro, and then
Okey-doke.
we'll wrap up. I'm not just going to hang up on you. I'll say a proper goodbye post recording, but let's do one for the people. And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for listening. One more time. Justin Gizzi, Victims of Contagion, Molasses Barge, Earns, Uber, Lyft. I don't know. I'll be back again in a couple days with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sykes. Start the Beat 2020. Whoop, whoop. Thanks for listening.